Hello, wildlings. I'm your Creepsmith, and you found my Fear Forge. Lucky you. Tonight's story, My Imagination, by Grinning Reindeer. Okay, so before I begin, I just want to say that this story is true. What I'm about to tell you really happened to me, and I'm not just saying so. This all happened when I was a kid. We lived in a smaller house back then, and I shared a room with my elder sister. We had a bunk bed. I slept in the bottom bunk, or tried to. For no good reason that I could think of, I was afraid to sleep there. My parents got tired of me crawling to sleep in their bed night after night, so they suggested that I should sleep next to my sister in the top bunk. Now, Sis wasn't too fond of this idea, but she finally agreed with the condition that I would sleep lower down in the bed at the level of her chest and not right next to her directly, since I once punched her in my sleep and caused her nose to bleed. Now, of course, I accepted these terms since it got me out of the bottom bunk. I slept next to her, and everything seemed just fine. I no longer had nightmares, and I felt safe next to my sister. But then, one night, I just couldn't sleep. My sister, on the other hand, was smiling contentedly in her dreams. I listened to her steady heartbeat and watched as her chest rose with each inhale. I listened to the silent sounds of the night when I saw something dark from the corner of my eye. Naturally, I turned to see what it was, but all I saw was the wooden edge of the bed. I thought it was nothing and turned back to look to my sister as she shifted in her sleep. But soon after I had turned away, I saw that same movement again. I spun my head quickly in its direction, but again saw nothing. I started to get scared and moved closer to my sister. I shut my eyes tight and waited until sleep took me over. The next morning, I woke to my sister's absence. I peeked over the bedside before climbing the 3 steps down and walked to the living room to find my sister watching television and went to watch the kids' show with her. I didn't mention that something that I had seen moving next to the bed. I thought she'd laugh at me or tell me it was nothing. The next day, well, that went on like any other, but the later it got, the more uneasy I became. I found myself stretching bedtime, but eventually our mother told us to go to sleep and that was final. We brushed our teeth and went to bed. So our parents came in and kissed us goodnight. My sister, again, fell fast asleep right away. I clutched my blanket and hoped that the movement had just been my imagination. But then, there it was again. I was afraid of it, but I wanted to know what it was. I cautiously turned my head, but when I looked straight at it, it disappeared. So I turned away, and as I'd thought, whatever it was returned. I turned again to see it, this time slowly and carefully so as not to look straight at it, and it worked. I saw what it was. A hand. A bony, brownish green hand with long black nails reaching over the rail of the bed. At this point, I was terrified. I automatically turned straight to it, only to see it quickly pull away. And as scared as I was, I crawled over my sister and looked over the edge to see what the hand belonged to. But there was nothing, just the bare floor and the bottom bunk. I laid back in bed, and when I looked away, the hand rose over the edge again. I wanted to see it, but as the hand reached over the side and finally cribbed the edge, I couldn't take it anymore, so I looked straight at it, causing it to retreat. I stared at the spot where it always came up from, and of course it didn't rise back up, but I was getting tired, and soon I drifted to sleep. Each night after that was the same. I saw the hand, but never what it belonged to. I stopped seeing it when we moved from that house to our current one, and my sister and I got separate rooms. I began to think that the hand had only been my imagination, fed by my fear of the dark. So I never mentioned anything about it. It was a few years back that I was talking with my sister about our previous neighbors, a sweet old couple, and we started thinking of all the things that we remembered from that house. And for the first time ever, I told her about that sickening green hand that I'd kept seeing, chuckling about being a weird kid with a strange, childish imagination. Then I noticed she was looking at me strangely, and she said, "I used to see it too." So stay scary, my wildlings. Remember, they don't like it when you notice them. And make the most of your nights.